All right, let's dive into an idea that might just completely flip the script on what you think it means to be noble.
So just for a second, think about it. When I say the word noble, what pops into your head?
Is it, immense wealth and power? We see it all the time, right? The kings, the politicians, the billionaires. Society basically screams at us that this, status, power, is how you measure a person's worth.
Or, hey, maybe it's about being a genius, right? We put these brilliant minds up on a pedestal, the great thinkers, the scientists who seem like they've cracked the code of the universe with just pure logic.
But what if both of these standards are not just wrong, but they're a trap? What if the pride of status and the pride of intellect are actually, well, a spiritual dead end? That the very thing the world calls noble could be the thing that's holding you back the most.
Okay, so let's see how this actually plays out. We're going to look at two ancient communities that perfectly illustrate these two very different, very flawed paths.
On one hand, you've got the Thessalonians. Their pride was all about their status, their heritage as God's chosen people. And on the other hand, you have the Athenians, who were just completely convinced that their philosophy and logic was the peak of human achievement. So two super different groups, right? But as we'll see, they had the exact same blind spot.
Okay, so let's start with the Thessalonians. They thought they were noble just by birthright. It was all tied up in their identity. But the moment their beliefs got challenged by a new message, all that so-called nobility just vanished. Poof. Instead of, thinking it over, they just reacted with pure jealousy and rage. They literally went out and gathered a mob of ruffians to start a riot. I mean, come on, that's not exactly noble, is it? Now let's jump over to Athens. And what you're looking at here is the Areopagus. This place was the center of everything for them. It was the absolute peak of human reason and logic, the historic heart of philosophy.
And the Athenians, wow, they were just obsessed with their own intellect. They would literally spend all day debating new ideas, kind of treating truth like it was just the latest trend. Everything, and I mean everything, had to be filtered through their own reasoning. So when they heard something that didn't fit in their neat little box of logic, something like the resurrection, their intellect became this massive wall. They couldn't compute it, so they just sneered, mocked it, and walked away.
So you see the problem, right? The pride of status leads to rage. The pride of intellect leads to rejection. Is there another way? You bet there is. And we find this more noble way in the example of a group called the Bereans.
And listen to the specific language here. The text explicitly calls the Bereans more noble than the others. And why? Not because they were richer, not because they had a higher IQ, but because of their posture, their fundamental attitude when it came to truth. Their method was so simple, but it was profoundly different from the others. Just two steps. First, an eager willingness, and second, daily diligence.
So let's really break that first part down. The original phrasing here is just incredible. It says they received the word with every willingness. Think about that. Not some willingness, but every willingness. It's this total, all-encompassing openness.
And this is the game changer. This is the crucial difference. Remember the Athenians? They demanded proof before they'd even consider anything. But the Bereans, they received the message first. Their humility let them welcome it into their hearts before they picked it apart with their minds. They chose to believe while they examined.
So what the Bereans are really showing us is a completely different definition of nobility, one that has absolutely nothing to do with what the world values.
Let's call it spiritual nobility. And what is that? It's not something you achieve on the outside. It's a quality on the inside. It's all about humility and a real, genuine eagerness to seek God. And it has zero to do with your bank account or what's written on your diploma.
I mean, just look at the contrast here. Worldly nobility, it's all external, and it's rooted in pride. It's the kind of thing that demands proof before it will even listen, which just leads to rejection and endless debate. But spiritual nobility, that's internal. It's rooted in humility. It's an attitude that believes while it's examining. And that, right there, is the path to real discovery and faith.
So, at the end of the day, true nobility really isn't about what you have or even what you know.
It's the posture of your heart. That's it. That's the whole secret. Okay, so what does this ancient story have to do with us, right here, right now? Well, it gives us this really powerful metaphor for navigating our own lives. This inner quality, this spiritual nobility, it's like having a spiritual compass. It's this internal guidance system that if we just let it, will always point us toward true north, towards God and His truth. So, how do you orient your compass? Well, you start by cultivating that mind of every willingness. You have to prioritize what God reveals over what our own human logic can figure out. It means letting go of that social and intellectual pride, that need to always be right. And finally, it's about humbly and diligently seeking truth every single day.
And that brings us to the one last question, the one that really matters for each of us. Where is your compass pointing?